everyone. Thanks for joining us. And if you're watching this recording, we're going to talk to you about the opportunity to maybe partner and build and grow your own property management and rent roll asset. And today I'm joined by a special guest, someone I've been working in alliance and collaboration with for quite some time now, and a partnership that I've had some tremendous experience and success with. I'm joined by Mel Hadley, CEO Lululiv. Thanks for joining us, Mel.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for inviting me today.
So, Mel, a lot of the questions I get from agents within, I guess, our network is, what is Lululiv? How does it work? So today I'm going to, I guess, fire some questions at you as a listing and transacting agent myself predominantly, but I really see the value in the prospect and opportunity to, grow my own property management asset. So, but maybe I don't want to manage it as such. I don't want to deal with those tenants. I don't want to deal with those landlords or those maintenance costs. So today, folks, if you're watching this recording, I'm going to ask some questions of Mel as a listing and transacting agent and how we've partnered up and the service that Lululiv provide to my property management business. So, Mel, just a quick introductory on Lululiv.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. So Lululiv is a property management company. We're a specialist property management company. And I always say to people, property management is all we do. And I always say it in air quotes because anyone who's had anything to do with property management knows it's not necessarily a simple process. But what we do is we provide property management as a service back to the real estate industry. So the all part is, what that essentially means is we don't sell. So we're not selling agents. We're obviously licensed real estate agents, but we don't sell. We don't build a rent roll in our own name. All we do is provide property management back like yourself, Chris, which really allows you to have and build an asset, keep your investors close without having to do any of the day-to-day property management activities. So it's really, thanks, Chris. Thanks.
So, it's fair to say your clients.
Say, like, the way
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it's fair to say that your clients are real estate agents like myself and principals, business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. That's who our clients are. And then we obviously provide services to your landlords and tenants. So we describe it as a renting community. And our renting community includes principals, so people like yourself, licensees, landlords, tenants, trades, and property managers. So our purpose is really to transform the experience for the renting community around things connected to property management.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about what states are you in and where are you operating and what rollout plans do you have for the future?
Great question. So we are currently operating in Queensland and South Australia. We launched our business up here in Queensland about 2.5 years ago and then moved into South Australia about 1.5 years ago. It's been a really interesting journey and we've had a lot of growth, which has been fantastic. And we work really closely in partnership with people like yourselves and the EXP network, as well as other brands. We are currently licensed in New South Wales and ready to start operating there. And our rollout plan is to be in Victoria by the end of the year. So the intention of Lululiv when we created the business was always to be national. And so we've really gravitated toward these East Coast states to start with to really establish a market presence there.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
And I'm incredibly privileged because I was an early adapter to your product offering and services in South Australia. And I'll be honest, folks, it's been a flawless experience for me. I'm a massive advocate for this. And the way I look at it is if I'm not getting landlord or tenant calls, then I know the service from Lululiv is nurturing my business in a tremendous way. And the only calls, in fact, I gave you a testimonial recently, which I spoke from the heart in. The only call I've had is when the landlords wanted to bring over more management to my asset, I guess, because of the experience that they've had. So tell us a little bit about, okay, so if I'm an agent in any one of those states that you operate within, how would I partner with yourself? Like, what's the requirements? What do we need to have to get the structure right?
So for Lululiv, what's really important for us is that our clients, so people like yourselves, you own your rent roll. So from day one, you have 100% ownership of the rent roll, which means the asset of the rent roll, as well as any sales leads. So Lululiv is a service provider. We're not an equity partner with you, and we don't take any share of the sales leads that come through. But to be in that position, you need to be able to sign up those legal contracts with clients, with owners. And to do that, you need to be a licensee.
Yep.
So it's a different requirement in each state, but essentially the broad term is licensee. If you're able to sign a sales contract, then you'll be able to sign a management contract.
Yep.
And once you have that licensee position, then you enter into a service agreement with Lululiv. So we then become a service provider on behalf of you to your clients. So it's quite simple to get in as long as you've got those legal requirements in place, which obviously is needed so that you can build that asset in your own name and own that asset completely.
Absolutely. It's a true entrepreneurial spirit. No longer do you need a tick and flick for a letting fee. You can retain the asset and own it 100% yourself. And if you look at the value ratio of 1 week letting fee to the value of retaining and owning that property management as an asset, it can be 6-7 times the value of 1 week's letting fee. So for those that are watching this that are in South Australia, obviously licensee, I've got the structure set up there. I can shed any light. It's very simplistic. It was very easy to engage your product and service offering. So I can step anyone in South Australia of the requirements to do so. If you need some guidance or support in that area, just reach out to me directly. I'd be only too happy to share with you how simple it was to get set up and underway. We're going to jump into your portal very soon and look at some of your systems from a landlord and tenant perspective. But one of the things I just want to talk about real quickly is I obviously go out and list the managements myself because generally I know the landlord or they're buying through me or I've been referred in. So I still present the during a business development management opportunity, I guess. What I love is when I convert the management agreement, it's all online. It literally takes me maybe 3.5 minutes at most to complete the online form, and it all digitally goes out to the landlord for execution and sign off. But you do also have the ability, if someone doesn't want to go out and do the property management listings, you've got a BDM offering and service as well attached to your business.
Yeah, we do. We actually introduced that after we had launched the business. So it's not a BDM, obviously, that's sitting in your office. I mean, Lululiv is a traditional business. So we're non-traditional. So we're doing a lot of things digitally. But our BDM offering is essentially allowing our clients to pass us leads, management leads, and then we pick those leads up and start to nurture them. And then when they close, we close them under the rent roll of the client who's brought the lead in.
Wow.
So it's a way for our clients who really don't want to talk about property management at all, but they're out in the marketplace all the time, meeting investors all the time. And what they really want to be able to do is offer a full solution for their clients, not just a sales solution, full solution, almost like a traditional business, but do it in a way that's really allows them to scale and focus on doing the things that they're really good at, which is selling and not having to worry about property management. And so the thing that I think is important to think about when you think about a business like Lululiv or being able to provide property management, everyone gets very caught up in the asset, which is obviously really important, and it's part of that retirement nest egg. But a rent roll does a number of different things for an agent. So it is a complete offering. It completes their offering. So they have a broader offering into the market, which is a more professional offering rather than just sales. That's one thing. Obviously, they have an asset, but then once you get a point of a rent roll of a certain size, you start to have a reliable source of management of sales pipeline. And so I think that's not to be underestimated how important that is, because a sales transaction will typically be more valuable than the value of an individual management in the rent roll. And so I think it's good to look at these from a very holistic perspective. Yes, it is a nest egg for retirement. You could sell it, you could borrow against it. You know, there's obviously income coming off it, but there is a sales pipeline. And so therefore this word partnership is really important for me. It's really important that people like you, Chris, are very connected with your clients and that we do this in partnership together to provide the services to the clients.
I just love that because I've had some property management experience in a former business ownership life, and I did a lot of BDM stuff. So I brought that skill set now into this arrangement. But I love the fact there's guys and girls I talk to, they're like, Chris, I don't want to meet with landlords. I don't want to do any of that property management listing because if I get thrown a curly question, I don't know how to answer it. I just want to stick to listing and selling. That there is an avenue where you can still capture that lead and opportunity. You can convert it on their behalf. Let's talk about this. Let's say I've got the structure right. I'm onboarded with Lululiv as a partner, in partnership. I love that word. Let's say I build a nice little nest egg and I've got some value there and I want to borrow against it to acquire or buy another rent roll. What can you do to help agents in that space?
So we're working with different banks at the moment to develop finance offerings around that. So that's one thing. The feedback we get from the banks that we are talking to, the thing they love about Lululiv is that we are a professional property management company. And so we very much run a P&L as a property management business. Our financial figures are not mixed in with the sales performance. And so we can actually look at that as a business and measure the performance of the business. The other thing about Lululiv is that we obviously work with agents across 2 states at the moment and moving into other states. And so what we're finding more and more is people are asking me, how do I buy a rent roll? And so our business is we deliver property management services, but we are really in the business of rent rolls. Running rent rolls, helping our clients acquire them, and helping them run professional businesses around that rent roll. So it's a little bit, it probably goes in a different direction to pure property management, but essentially, a property management business, it is a business, and it is the business of a rent roll.
Absolutely. And I love that you're sticking to within your pillars, your skill set. You're a property management business. That's all you specialize in. That's all you're focusing on. So tell me, let's say if I'm an agent, I've got the structure right in the respective states that you're operating in partnership with agents in. So I'm underway. So let's say I get my first property management opportunity. Like, what does the fee structure look like? What's the commercial arrangement and offering look like to an agent?
So to get started with Lululiv, our business is sign a service contract. That service contract is essentially saying that you own the rent roll, we're a service provider, and it outlines the commercial terms. So the way the commercial terms work is that we work with our clients to grow a rent roll of up to 100 properties. And while they're growing it to 100 properties, we retain the revenue. Once they reach 100 properties, we share revenue across the total portfolio. They pay us $50 a month plus GST for access to everything, the property management services. And that's $50 regardless of how many properties they have. And so the way I like to think about this is that if you're an agent like yourself who comes in with nothing or a small portfolio, you've got an opportunity to grow an asset in a very cost-effective way without having to do any of the work. And so I've got a client at the moment who is on track to build a rent roll of, I'm expecting it to exceed a value of $250,000 in the first year.
Wow.
And in that first year, he will have paid us 12 lots of $50. That's it.
No brainer.
So I think that, when you think about it like that, and the interesting thing about it is that the owners are people you're meeting every day. Like, there are so many investors in the market. There's so many tenants who are rent vesting. Every day you're meeting people who own rental properties. And all we're doing now is providing you an opportunity to offer them a service and create an asset and a pipeline of sales leads for you. So it's quite interesting when I talk to people because they have this, I don't want to talk about property management. And you don't have to. You can engage us for the BDM. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship. And people are buying from you, Chris, or from our clients because they trust them. And you're working with us because you trust us. So it's all about that relationship.
And I loved how you touched on your tenant could be your next landlord, because I know so many entrepreneurial people, they actually choose to rent over owning property because they invest in other areas of their life and their entrepreneurial aspirations, I guess. And from a risk perspective, sometimes it can be better from a risk point of view. You'd be amazed how many wealthy people are renting for that reason. So never cast a shadow over your tenant who could just be your next landlord.
No.
So to me, it sounds like, okay, I've got my structure right in the state. I pay $50 a month subscription fee. Up to 100, you retain the revenue. Once we get over 100 managements, we start sharing the revenue, which is great. I think really, from my point of view, the way I look at this is just purely from owning the asset. The value in the asset has a lot more value to me. But let's say if I get to 75 managements, right, under management, and there's some
Yep.
good pipeline revenue coming in every month there, and I say, look, Mel, it's been great, but there's 15 grand, 20 grand coming in every month. I'm going to go out and hire somebody. I'm going to get a car, a laptop, a mobile, pay the wage, do the sick leave, all that stuff, superannuation. What do I need to do if that changes?
Sounds great, doesn't it?
I don't miss those days, as you can tell. What happens if I want to change the arrangement? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that when we created the business, we obviously wanted to have this impact on the industry. And so we recognize that the asset is really important for you, but flexibility is also important. So the Lululiv model is completely flexible. It's a month-to-month arrangement. So at any point, you don't have to wait till you get to 100 managements, but at any point, if you want to sell it or run it in-house or do whatever, we just need 30 days notice. And that 30 days notice is really only about transitioning your clients from where they are today safely to where they're going to be managed in the future.
Yep.
So it's very simple from that perspective. So we call it no lock-in contract. It's a subscription. It's month to month. And so if you get to 75 managements, for example, and you think, you know what, this is actually better if I do it in-house, then that is an option for you to do that, of course, just with that 30 days notice.
Okay. And that 30 days obviously is just to, ensure that there's a smooth transition with offboarding, transferring over.
100%.
Yeah. And I love that because we're,
because if you think, sorry, I was going to say, if you think about it, it's you're transitioning the management of the property, but there's people behind that.
Yeah, of course.
So owners need to be transitioned and tenants need to be transitioned. And so that, depending on how many properties you've got, will determine how long that takes. Yeah.
What I love about it though, Mel, it's subscription based, and we've been doing this for quite some time now. I see value each and every month, so I'm not unsubscribing, and I think that's great. Like, I think hamstringing people and locking them in, if they don't see value, then why should someone be contractually obligated for a period of time?
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're receiving value as I am, month by month, there's no reason. If you're offering good value, there's no reason for me to offboard and change. Cool. All right. So
and look, that's obviously a point of difference for Lululiv, because it comes back to the fact that all we do is provide this service. So if we don't serve, that's our exposure.
Yeah,
it's
like
30 days isn't a very long period of time.
No, that's phenomenal. I think that's a real point of difference, because I know competitors out there have contacted me, and a lot of them are doing 2 to 3 year contract terms, and I'm like, I'll tell you now, like, you just don't compete there in the marketplace in comparison. But it's just like Netflix. Like, if you're receiving value and you're watching Netflix, you keep your subscription going. If something changes in your world, your life, you can offboard at any time. What we might do, for the interest of time and the viewers, is we might jump into the portal itself and have a look at some of the technology, because one of the things I was really impressed when I first met with you and Susanna when we sat in that office was the landlord and tenant app, and particularly around how you have a real strong emphasis and focus around maintenance and the management of maintenance. Because I know in a property management business, the biggest hurdle, the biggest bottlenecks, the biggest dissatisfaction with trades, tenants, landlords is when it comes to management of maintenance, because of time or cost. And I was super blown away with how you guys put a lot of responsibility on the trades to be rated, but also there's some accountability on the tenants when reporting trades. So talk to us a little bit about that. Did you want to jump in the app, or did you want to give us a bit of an overview first?
I'll just give you an overview. You touch on the maintenance piece, and that is a really important part of the technology. The backstory with the technology is that we, within Lululiv, what we've essentially done is pick up technology that's being built by Lululiv's co-founder, Susanna Tu. By that business, which is based in Adelaide. We've picked up that technology and built additional technology around it so that we can essentially offer that as a package into the market. And so Lululiv's business model is different in that we partner with people like yourself. So we have technology that we've built that allows us to provide transparency to you around what's happening in your rental portfolio, but also allows that sign-up process of new managements to be a lot simpler, which you alluded to before. And then in addition to that, we have the technology for landlords and tenants. The technology, I mean, I love it, and I'm not a techie per se, but I love what technology can do when it's really working well and designed well.
Yeah.
And the technology has really been designed with simplicity in mind and transparency. And the kind of theory behind that is the transparency builds the trust.
Yes.
So what this technology really does, and particularly when we look at the maintenance piece, you'll get a snapshot of what that is. It is essentially taking the property manager out of the center of the transaction.
Yep.
In those traditional models, the property manager in the center, they're pushing information in and out of the flow.
Yep.
And it takes the property manager out of the center and puts them on the ring, if you like. So they're making sure the information goes around, but the information shared freely. And it's that lack of visibility, particularly around things like maintenance, where you might have a blocked toilet or a burst hot water system or whatever, where you've got a lot of sensitivity and emotion. If you don't know what's going on, it can be very, very frustrating. Yes. So the maintenance technology is the first piece of technology they built, because when they analyze the flow of correspondence and communication, 3/4 of that related to maintenance issues.
Yep.
And you can imagine with one maintenance issue, you can have an exponential number of emails, phone calls, messages, because you're connecting with the tenant, the trade, and the owners backwards and forwards. So the technology deals with a lot of that, which is really lovely. So why don't we just start there? I'm going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen. Just bear with me for a sec.
And whilst you're doing that,
I'm just going to jump into the demo system.
Whilst you're doing that, Em, I think that's a really important point of difference that I definitely have had direct feedback from clients who have come from different platforms, different models of how their management was run to now experiencing this. They've just found it a lot more responsive. You know, there is responsibility put on the trades and the tenant as well. And it's just been a lot more efficient. You know, we were talking to Mike Lowry just last week, who's got managements under you who uses your offering and service. And he just couldn't believe it, how efficiently stuff was being live recorded, documented. He could see what was happening at any time. And in one instance, the tenant actually was able to fix the maintenance themselves, avoiding him a call-out fee. Because we know every landlord's pain point is when stuff costs some money, when it could have been prevented or avoided. That's where relationships get fractured a little bit of trust, because every property manager probably has a different skill set of how to handle maintenance. Whereas this system... This system is really clever. So let's jump into it and have a look.
Yeah. So this is sort of the landing page. Obviously, this is a demo system. And so when we onboard clients like yourself, we then onboard their landlords and tenants. So tenants would come in here, they would log in as a tenant. And it's taken them straight into the maintenance app in this case, because I've been playing around with the system today. But in here, straight away, the tenant can see what jobs have been logged and where they are in terms of their process of being completed.
Okay.
And they can also add maintenance in. And I'll go through one of these examples, because this sort of touches on some of the things you just mentioned, Chris, which is really awesome. So, I mean, I didn't build this, so I can talk about this and say how amazing it is, because I'm not patting my own self on the back, but it is amazing. Like when the team built this technology, they went out to all of their trades and they asked their trades, okay, these are the jobs that you've been working on for us over the years. What do you need to know before you go on site to make sure that problem is fixed the first time? And from there, what they've done is essentially create this database of typical jobs with a series of questions related to that job, which then allows the property manager to assign the job correctly the first time to the trade. And for the trade to know what they need to know before they go out to get the work done the first time.
I love that, because a lot of the maintenance, as you... sorry, I was just going to say, I love that because a lot of the maintenance requests we get in our property management businesses often relate to the same thing, time and time again. There's a lot of repetition with maintenance.
And of course there is, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with problems in a home. And most homes include the same kinds of things. We have bathrooms, we have kitchens, you know, we have taps, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really clever from that perspective. And as we go through, and I'll show you what this looks like, you'll get a sense of how easy it is to use. The great thing about this also is, I mean, we obviously onboard the tenants and the owners into the apps, but we clearly have tenants who don't want to use technology or can't use technology for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so they can still call us up, and then we are essentially going through this process as if we were them.
Okay. Brilliant.
So the key thing is that, the key thing is the information gets in the system, because once the information's in the system, that's when you are allowed to have that flow of information around the loop. Okay. So I'll just show you, I'm just going to use the example of a roller door. So I just start typing. I've got a problem with my roller door. I'm going to start typing roller door. And so it's already come up with a couple of different options. And I've also got this option here, if it's not listed, to just free text. But for now, let's just go with the first one. My roller door is broken. It needs repairs. Okay, so straight away, the system has that as a regular job. And what it's done is it has pulled up a series of tips and tricks that the tenant needs to go through to proceed to try and solve the problem themselves. So you mentioned Mike as an owner. He's aware that tenants are solving problems. This is what they're doing when they're solving the problems. They're using these tips and tricks that are built into the system. And the great thing about this is the tenant has to actually check through all of these things to say that they have checked these things before they have the option to proceed.
Brilliant.
So this obviously provides tips and tricks, but it also creates an audit trail of what's actually being done in relation to this job. If the problem's solved, then they just need to hit solve. They don't need, and that will then close that request down. But what it does for the owner, which I really love, is it lets the owner know that the tenant has solved a problem, saving the owner a call-out fee.
Great.
So the owner straight away, as you were talking about before, straight away they know, hang on a minute, this tenant's awesome. They've saved me $100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If the problem isn't solved, then obviously they need to continue to log the maintenance issue. And so in this case, what we straight away see come up on the screen is a warning flag. And this is designed to ensure that, you know, tenants are safe in their home. Again, tenants need to click through before they can proceed. And then they're taken through this series of information that they need to document. So where is the problem? Specific questions about this job, their information and contact details, which is actually really important, because once the job is logged in the system, the tenant and trade are connected with each other.
Right.
So again, the trade isn't contacting the property manager to find out if the tenant will be home between 12 and 2 on Tuesday, a week away.
Love
right?
it.
They're connected directly, and so they're coordinating the logistics at that point, which obviously makes complete sense, because as a property manager, you don't know if the tenant's going to be home between 12 and 2, Tuesday, a week away. So that's really important. The tenant can upload photos, which is great. And then once they've done that, add in any comments and submit the issue through the system. Once they submit it, it comes into the property management team. They pick it up, and then depending on the nature of the job, depending on the landlord's preferences, they will then allocate that job accordingly. So we may need to get quotes. The owner may prefer us to use a particular trade, so we can allocate it to the trade up to a certain amount of dollar value. We can do that. The owner may not have a preference of trades, so we can allocate it to trades that are in our network based on what we know are quality trades. And then the job goes out to the trade or out for quotes, and then the trades pick it up in the system and do what they need to do, and then they also close it out in the system. Brilliant. The owner can also approve work, and the owner can actually see this job going around, so they know where it is in terms of being allocated and being completed. So I'll show you, when I just jump into the owner portal, you'll see there what the owner sees, and you'll also get a view at a more aggregate level of what the tenant sees as well. Once the work is completed, the tenant can star rate the trade. So the star rating system is a really great way of keeping the trades accountable. Yeah. So it's a really cool feature. We promote and publish those star ratings as well, so they're not just hidden away. So it's, you know, obviously important for trades for repeat work, but they do quality work for us on behalf of the owners and the tenants.
That's brilliant.
So
Emma, I like
it's very
that.
simple.
Yeah, I really like
Yeah,
that. So
I mean,
the tenant has the ability to rate the trades, what, in a 1 to 5 star rating or a 1
yeah,
to 3 star, and
exactly. Yeah.
that's
Yeah, 1
great.
to 5. Yeah. Yep. So it's really, yeah, I love it. It's great, actually. So I'll just quickly jump into the owner side of things. So the owners see, and look, tenants can log in and see more information about their account as well.
Yep.
But from an owner point of view, just so you get a snapshot of what's going on there, this particular owner has multiple properties.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see their properties in aggregate, and you can also drill down. We're in a drill down at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the details of the lease and the rent. You've got a graphical representation of what's been happening in their property month over month, year over year, if they've been with us for that long, from a financial point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Down here on the right-hand side, you've got a trust account feed. So as we process the trust account, this is updated real time into the app. So we have some owners who watch us process the trust account diligently.
Yep.
And we've got some owners who are a bit more relaxed. And then down below, which is really cool, I love this, you've got all this information which has been organised. So you've got information in this first category around their jobs. You've got any information about inspections which are being scheduled, and then you've got all their documents here. So in terms of documents, that would include things like, obviously, statements, as you can see, entry reports, the management agreement, inspection reports, like anything that's we would be emailing out. Smoke alarm compliance certificates is another example. They would all be included in here and accessible directly through the app. In terms of maintenance, I'll just show you what they can see. So I've just flicked over here to this request overview tab, and this is the view of maintenance. Here they can see jobs that they need to action. This is where they need to do something. Jobs that are in progress, and then down below, jobs that are complete. So a couple of things just to highlight here. One feature I really love is this maintenance categories, where the jobs are allocated a bubble, and the colour of the bubble directly links to the estimated time frame for the work to be completed. These time frames are all pre-configured in the system, depending on the job. They're communicated to the tenant and to the trade. Obviously, they're visible to the owner, but the tenant knows when they log a job that's urgent and has risk attached to it, it should be fixed within 24 hours through to, you know, something that's not as urgent.
That's fantastic. I think that's really clear where a lot of the breakdown goes with maintenance. It's pre-frameworking the expectation of what is life-threatening, what's non-urgent. And I think having those categories set some really solid foundations and boundaries as to expected timeframes for a resolution. I think once you paint that clear picture and everyone can visually see that, landlords and tenants and suppliers, it just keeps all relationships harmoniously on track to the set required timeframes dependent on the category of the maintenance. Brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's great. It's, again, transparency is key. And you can see just the way that the information is presented and the type of information that's made visible. You're no longer having to call the property manager to find out what's going on. It's directly here.
So, Em, that was really enlightening to see. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I love that it really puts a lot of onuses on maintenance and responsibility back onto the tenant to have the opportunity to try and resolve it. It's got some troubleshooting mechanisms there that, you know, you've got the information from trades of, well, if you get this maintenance request to avoid a call out fee, how would you troubleshoot that? And you've built that into smart technology within your AI system. So that's genius. I love it as a landlord that I can log in and see live feeds of everything. I love the simplicity of it because, let's be honest, we're all on our devices more so than ever before. And there's nothing better than being able to sit on your lounge room and go, oh yeah, that maintenance report, that's maintenance taken care of. Or, you know what, I'd like to get my management agreement, or I'd like to get end of financial year statement. It's just simplicity because people want stuff at the click of a button. And no longer do they need someone physically in an office or at a desk where they need to go in there to say, can I have this paperwork or that statement? It's like, it's there. It's like your net banking, you know? So I really love that. And the feedback we've had has been phenomenal of my landlords, speaking from experience that have gone from other agencies and other user platforms, have found this just so engaging for them as a consumer. Let's jump into Sorry, I was just going to ask you. One of the questions I'm sure agents will ask is, if my landlord doesn't have a tradesperson, can you help them, or can they bring their own trade suppliers to the table for maintenance?
Yeah, so yes is a short answer. I mean, trades, as you would expect, are a really important part of the system of the renting community. And for lots of different reasons, it's so critical that we have the right trades working with us. And so our trades come from a number of different places. One is people like yourselves. You have trades that you work with, people you rely on and trust. And so we're happy to work with them. Landlords, similarly, they have trades that they love, that they work with and trust. We work with them. And then what we essentially do is plug the gaps, if that makes any sense. So it's really important that we have trades who are available for after hours call out fees. So if you've got a block toilet on a Saturday afternoon, you're not waiting till Monday 10 a.m. for that toilet to be fixed. And so it's important that we've got trades that can come out.
That's really important
that we have those trades.
I think that's really important, because, you know, I get this question a lot, and I say, look, you can bring trades to the table, but just understand there's almost got to be, not KPIs, but there's got to be some parameters around, because if Jim gets his mate James, who is his plumber, but because James is like, well, Jim just lets me get to the job whenever suits me, then the satisfaction of the tenant and the rating of the trades isn't going to be, you know, good reflection. So what I always say to my landlords is, you can bring anyone to the table, just understand they need to make sure that, you know, the categories, that they conform to the categories that we just looked at with the time frames. They understand the importance of that their services will be rated as to the experience to the tenant and the resolution in a timely manner as well. So it's almost, there's expectations set on the tenant, but there's also KPIs required of the tradespeople to uphold our reputation as part of these relationships.
Absolutely. And look, the trades, obviously, they need to have insurances and licenses. I mean, that's a given. I get asked quite a lot from owners, can I do the work myself? And the same principles apply. And the other thing I also make sure owners are aware of is that once they are engaged to do a job, the tenant also has their contact details. And so I find that quite a lot of owners suddenly rethink that starting point once they realize that the tenant could actually be calling them directly on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning, which quite often, you know, these things go south at that time, at those really ugly hours when people don't want to be dealing with those things. So I think that, look, we do, but there is a requirement around that the service is maintained, and obviously it's done in a way that's compliant as well.
Brilliant. Good explanation. So we've now looked at the landlord, we've looked at the tenant, we've looked at maintenance, a lot of the common questions that an agent might ask as part of this agreement and arrangement. Let's now jump into, if I as an agent want to list a management, what does that look like on the online portal, and how simplistic is it? And secondly, how do I plug in to see my business and hopefully growing, like what the revenue looks like, where's my portfolio at? How do we see all that?
So when you sign up with Lululiv, the way the process works is that we enter into a service contract, and then we collect a lot of information from you, particularly around things like your license details. We then go and create an account for you in our system, and when we create that account, we create a portal for landlords and tenants, which is what we've just been looking at, and we also create a portal for our principals. In that portal for principals, they can do two things. They can sign up new managements, and I'll show you what that looks like. And they can also look at their portfolio from a KPI point of view. So I'll just share my screen again and just jump in. And look, again, this is a demo system, so the data is a little bit meaningless. But what we have here is a series of KPI tiles, which is giving you a snapshot of what your portfolio looks like at any point in time. This is refreshed every 2 hours, so it's essentially real time. And obviously the data is being pulled from the underlying system. So it's the same information that we would look at in the day-to-day property management activities that you look at from a management point of view as well. So you've got in here these tiles, you've got the development of the portfolio over time. You've also got some information around vacancy. And then you've got this section here called pipeline. And so as you start to sign up managements through this portal, you'll start to see a couple of things happen. One, as the managements are going out for signing, you'll start to see them appearing in this pipeline area. And then as they're signed up, what you'll start to see is a repository start to build of those management agreements. And so it's really from the perspective of creating, I guess, a library of contracts for you. Everything is here in one place, a little bit like it is for the landlord when they're looking at their documents through the portal. So there's no paperwork with Lululiv. There's no printing off, dozens of pages of paper and walking them out to a client for signing. It's all handled through the portal.
Yep.
And it's really very simple. So when you come here, you've got this dashboard. Over here on the left, you've got this little person. If we click through there, you've got a button here to add a landlord. This takes you into what is essentially an online form. Super simple. Fill in the landlord details. If there's more than one landlord, add the second landlord in, put the property details in of the investment property, put in the management fee that you're charging, an estimate of the rent, any special comments that we need to be aware of. So, an example might be that, in South Australia and Queensland, we list our properties for rent through realestate.com. You might want to give as an incentive to bring that management over, you might pay that first listing fee for the year. So if that's the case, we need to know about that. Otherwise, we're going to charge the owner. So then you just include those comments in here in the special conditions. That then feeds directly into the management agreement. So it actually becomes a legal term in the contract.
Yeah.
And then the effective date of the agreement, if the property is tenanted, if there's a manager in place, have they been given notice? This literally takes 2 to 3 minutes to fill in. No
and
more.
I can vouch for that. Em, because I've literally sat in a landlord's lounge room, and within 10 minutes of talking to them, what we do, how we do it, got their business, I bring this up on my tablet or even my mobile device, and bang, it's just like fill it out in front of them. And while they're sitting next to me, bang, they get the electronic agreement. And one of the things I love about the comments section, I'm ruthless on the comments because I literally document everything about what was discussed. I'm always like, this is when the lease is up. Here's the tenant's name, number. This is who it's managed by. Do you know what I mean? So the more information we can provide you, the easier and more seamless the handover seems to be. One of the other things I'll just note too, Em, that I like, if I could just point out from an agent's point of view, is I've had a landlord call me whilst I've been at home, 9:30 at night. Chris, I want to leave them. I want you to take over my management. No problems, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord. I'm going to send you an agreement right now. So I walk from my lounge room into my office. Within 5 minutes of them talking to me, they get an electronic agreement. But what I also love is it notifies me by email saying this agreement has gone out to your landlord. The other thing that I like, and this has happened to me because I'm so focused on listing and selling, sometimes I forget to follow up on my property management opportunities. I've sent out an agreement, forgotten, whatever reason. I might have tried to call the client the next day. They didn't get a hold of me. We missed each other, right? Somewhere they escaped through the net. A week and a half later, Chris gets an email notification saying, you've got a new management. You've got a new landlord. And this inbound opportunity came in that I had forgotten about, and it automatically reminds you and includes you in the communication. So it's set and forget this stuff. It's phenomenal. It's super powerful. Yeah.
No, that's great feedback, and I love to hear that. I mean, it's really important that you're informed every step of the way. I mean, we're actually, until it's signed, we're not officially appointed, but obviously we're informed every step of the way as well. So as these agreements are being sent out, you get a copy, clearly the landlord does. We also get copies. So we're across what's going on at any point in the process. And so just super quickly, like once you kind of tick the box to say you're agreeing to send out the management agreement, your digital signature will be applied to the document. It's already pre-signed by Lululiv. You submit it through the system, and then off it goes to the landlord. So the landlord will get an email. It will have the management agreement as a PDF, and then directly, so they can view the management agreement, obviously, but then directly in the email, they have the option to confirm the details and accept the management agreement. Their digital signature is then applied. It then comes back to us as a completed agreement, and off we go. We then step in and do whatever needs to be done. So in that example where you've got Mr. and Mrs. Landlord who want to change property managers, In that case, we would only need to help that landlord provide that notice to the previous manager. And then once that notice has been given, that as part of that notice, they're instructed that we will then work with that other manager directly to transition the files across. So it's simple from an owner point of view. They don't need to get into any messy conversations about wanting to end contracts and things like that. We facilitate that for them on the back end. So it's pretty simple.
I love that. And you guys are super proactive in that space. I've never had to walk into an office environment where there's sales agents that know me and I know them, and we're competing against each other to take their property management, file off them, because that's an awkward thing to do. I get it.
Of course.
It really keeps that neutral.
And,
the simplicity of it is just phenomenal. So, cool. Well, that's really simple, straightforward. And an easy way to win a management that can take you 3 minutes to maybe acquire an asset that's worth 3.5, 4 times multiplier in today's market. We won't go into fees. So any of you guys and girls that might be watching this, and if you've got a question about fees and management fees and all that, I'm going to suggest just direct your inquiries to Mel, because the way you want to run your portfolio is different to me. What you want to charge your clients, everyone's different. So approach yourself, Mel, would be the best way to just tailor the best way to set up your property management with Lululiv. If I can just quickly, just fire off a few quick questions to wrap up our session, which has been super informative as always. Routine inspections, are they done, and what's the frequency of them?
Yeah, so yes, they are done, and they're a really important part of what we do. We are essentially the eyes and ears for our clients in the property. So yes, they're done. They're done dependent on the frequency that we're allowed to do them. So for example, in South Australia, we're legally allowed to be in there every 16 weeks. In Queensland, it's 12 weeks. So that's the frequency we establish. If owners ask us to do them less frequently, then that's obviously a discussion we can have, but we can't do them more frequently, if that makes sense.
Awesome. So if there's a routine...
just with the routines, I was just going to say, with the routines, what the owner gets as well is a detailed report with photos. Obviously, any maintenance that comes off the back of that routine, we're obviously logging and dealing with as well. And any issues that the tenants need to remedy, then we're obviously working with the tenants to get those things addressed as well.
And the landlord, through the landlord app, they can access their quarterly or every 16 weeks or 12 weeks. They can access their report, their routine in the landlord app. They can see the photos and conditional notation as well.
So they see the full report, which includes any notes of the property manager, obviously all the photos. We do email it out, but it is then made visible to them through the portal as well. And the same comment there applies to the entry reports. Like, the entry condition reports are sort of on average about 160 to 170 pages long. They're very, very comprehensive, and they're also made available through the portal.
Excellent. And that's all done for me as the agent. I don't have to worry about doing ingoings, outgoings, routines, reconciling trust accounts. You guys do all of that?
No.
Management of fees.
We get the joy of that.
Statements.
So we do all that. That's on us. Awesome. I mean, that's what I describe it as property management in a box. It literally is everything that you would expect a property management company to do and more is what we're doing.
Brilliant. So if there's any of our viewers watching this, how would they get in contact with you? What's your best mobile number?
Best mobile is 0456 582233. You can also email me at Melissa, MELISSA, at lululiv.com.
And what we'll do, folks, we'll drop all that content and information down below and links below the video here. We'll also drop a link to the Lululiv website, but I'd always encourage, we're in the business of relationships. Reach out to Em, as I did in those early stages, and picked her brains and asked a lot of these questions, because as a listing and transacting agent, seeing value in building a property management and rent roll asset, we all have the same questions. I'm sure you get the same questions time and time again. But we're coming up on 2 years with this relationship, and it's only going from strength to strength. And the experience from my clients, landlords, trades, and tenants' point of view has been absolutely flawless. So, Em, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. This has been invaluable, and looking forward to sharing this with our group. And guys, if you've got any questions, Em's details down below. Reach out to her directly. Thanks, Em, for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate the
Thanks, guys.
opportunity. Chat
Thanks,
soon.
Sam. Cheers.
Bye.